Yeah, you can speak up if I was wrong.
Is there any more public comment, Abe? So, Melissa, you guys want to come up?
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, Becky, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thank you. Hi, Melissa.
Good morning, Sabrina.
Hello, good morning.
I like your necklace. It's neat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I have a packet for each of you.
You guys do such a good job, Melissa.
Oh, here. And one for Amy.
There you go. Thank you.
And at my age, we need my eyes.
Give me two. I'll pass you one, Vicky.
All right, good morning, Portage County Commissioners. I'm Melissa Long. I'm a senior citizen of Kent, Ohio, Portage County. I am here with the Area Agency on Aging, number 10 Direction Home, representing the County of Portage. We want to propose to the Portage County Commissioners the content of a county senior tax levy. Now, there are 88 counties in the state of Ohio, that I know you all know that. And I have been corrected this morning, 61, and I had printed 69 of those 88 have senior tax levies.
How many of them? Sorry,
No.
61.
I think it's 71.
71,
Yes.
and then I'm
Sorry.
so
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Of the 88 counties in the state of Ohio, 71 of these 88 already have senior tax levies in effect and providing services for seniors. We are one of the, and now the number 19 will change, we have failed to provide for monies to promote services for their senior population. Every day the number of persons reaching 50 and over, 65 eligible for Social Security, that figure grows. In the county, we have a diverse population of 4 cities and a large rural area and a mass of governmental land stuck right in the middle of our county. For years, we have ignored the need of for services for our older citizens and they're our most vulnerable population, our seniors. Why do we need services and what kind of services can a senior tax levy provide? My partners at Area Agency on Aging has prepared a presentation to answer most of those questions. They are the professionals, and they deal with senior needs every day through their services in this field. But before this presentation, I want to explain to you why we are here. Maybe I should say why I am here. The county commissioners need to be educated, and you are the only ones who would be in charge of the tax monies. You would have to authorize payment for services or provide professional persons to run the program or some form of both combined. This has been done in many creative ways throughout the state of Ohio, and we can provide you with ideas and what is going on in different counties. We have done this survey and worked with many agencies, as you can see from the information that I have provided you in the folder. So now let me introduce to you my partners. To my right is Becky Newman, the Financial Director of Area Agency on Aging Direction Home. And to my left is Mr. Charles Alderson, retired financial officer. And also Mr. Alderson is a Portage County resident. So he knows us, he knows how we run our county and what the needs are here. I know this is a lot to consider, and many meetings will be necessary with input from many persons of the county and many organizations and elected persons. Kent is the only city in the county that does not have a senior center or programs for seniors. Streetsboro does, Aurora does, and the city of Ravenna does. Maybe there aren't any seniors in Kent. Now I would like to open our presentation to questions, and definitely have the presentation that is been prepared by the Area Agency on Aging.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start.
Thank you
for this opportunity. As Melissa mentioned, Charles and I are here today to talk about a little bit about Direction Home, funding sources, and then some barriers and limitations that we are confronted with now, and why your zip code matters, most importantly. So what we want to start with today is an introduction. So this is Greg. He is on our care coordination program. He is in Portage County. He was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 1987 and had to stop working in 2005. So one day he's working and the next he could barely move. It was almost as if his left side, he had had a stroke. His hands were having, trouble gripping. So he really just needed help with chores at home, laundry, washing dishes, vacuuming, grocery shopping, things like that. And he also uses a scooter. He can't drive and doesn't get out much except to take the dogs for a walk. He enjoys his home health aides. These are a few people that he has contact with. He has never had any trouble with them, and thinks that they are all very trustworthy. So Mandy, our Direction Home employee, she is his case manager, and actually care manager. I like to say care manager better than case manager. He thinks the world of her. She is kind, checks up on him frequently. She comes to visit, and he feels like there's at least one person in the world who cares about him. He loves the quiet and peace of living in Windham. He feels safe but not isolated, and that the people are friendly. So that is Greg. This next slide shows just some supportive services that we need for successful aging in the home. So depending on the need, older Ohioans access different supportive services that allow them to bridge gaps in care they experience due to the limitations of daily living. So depending on if they need physical assistance due to a stroke or supervision due to memory impairment, there are options that can help them age where they want to be. These are some of the options on a menu of services that can keep older Ohioans happy and healthy in the choice or the home of their choice. So information, just having those resources, where can they go? So just having access to the information. Assessments. So we at Direction Home have registered nurses who perform an assessment on, what is the level of care and what services do they need to stay in their home and out of institutionalized care, such as nursing facilities. Care coordination and care management, so putting that care plan together, checking up on them, making sure they're getting the care that they need, and that they're okay to stay at home. Nutrition support and meals, this is congregate meals as well as home delivered, personal care and homemakers, home modifications such as ramps, walk-in showers, things that can keep these people in their homes safely, caregiver support, caregiver respite, disease management and wellness programming, and also transportation, making sure we can get them to those doctor visits that they need to get to. So those are some of the supportive services. I'm going to hand it over to Charles. He's going to talk about who pays for these services and what are some of those barriers and limitations that we're confronted with.
Thank you. My name is Charles Alderson. I go by Chuck. We live in southern Portage County. We've lived in the Atwater area for the last 25 years. Been resident of Portage County for over 42 years. My kids grew up in attended the Kent schools. My daughter still lives in the Kent area with 2 of our grandchildren. And so as Melissa said earlier, I do know the county, and I've been in the healthcare environment for 41 years. I worked for Summa Health System for a number of those years. Most recently, I worked for Direction Home. And it's really, I would say it's eye-opening to me during my career to see that bridge between the acute care services and those services in the home. We have the tagline, and Becky had mentioned a little bit earlier, is that we provide, monitor, and create those services so that the seniors and the disabled in our community feel safe and comfortable in a place they want to call home. So whether it's in an individual home, in a group home, or assisted living, we can provide those few small things that keep them comfortable at home. I often share as well, I grew up in the township of Greene at the time. But my mother was able to live her entire life in the home we grew up at. She passed away at the age of 86. But those few small things, they had a brick home, 1 story, so she was able to stay at home. She was able to get the chore maker services. Eventually she got to the point where she couldn't do, well, she had a lady come help her clean the house. Eventually she would help her do laundry once a week. But that enabled Mom to stay home, not have to go to a nursing home, not have to go to assisted living and so forth. And just those few small things was able to provide for that. So the question is, though, where those services come from and how do we pay for those? And so the Medicare program does not pay for those. You hope that when you get old, you've been taught all your life that Medicare is going to take care of you. Well, it really doesn't, those kind of things. There are a few managed care plans. In January of 2019, they passed the Chronic Care Act, they call it. And prior to that, managed care, the Medicare managed care programs could not pick and choose and provide those services to just the people that needed them. If they offered transportation, if they offered homemaker service or meal service, they had offered everybody who subscribed to their managed care program. Well, the Chronic Care Act then allowed them to be able to assess the patients and identify in what conditions they could pick and choose those services, so they didn't have to offer it to everybody. So we're seeing a little change to that, but it's far from evolving to anything. Medicaid program offers waiver programs such as Passport and so forth that provides these kind of services, but only to those folks that are Medicaid eligible, which would have both an asset and an income test. And so very few people, qualify for those, maybe 10% of our population. So the folks, as they get older and need those services, where does the funding come from? We have a program at Direction Home that we provide those services. We go out and seek philanthropic dollars for those and so forth. It's called a care coordination program, but we probably only cover maybe 50 people, 60 people a year out of our 4-county area. And so it really doesn't provide that. As Melissa said, that there are 71 counties in the state of Ohio that produce some type of a senior tax levy to help support these kind of things. They create about $195 million a year statewide. Again, Portage County, our Direction Home group, which represents 4 counties. Direction Home is one of the area agencies on aging that was created back in the mid-60s through the Older Americans Act, and it gets upped every few years. It just got renewed last fall. But those dollars, again, are generated. There are over 600 area agencies across the country that cover every county in the country. And in Ohio, there are 12 of these area agencies with designated counties. Akron is responsible for Summit, Stark, Portage, and Wayne counties. Those 4 counties are our responsibility from Direction Home Area Agency 10B. So those are that's a little bit of a background of who we are and how we get most of our funding and so forth. And again, most of it is generated through that Older Americans Act or the Medicaid waiver programs such as Passport in the state of Ohio. You may have heard about that. We currently have about 7,500 patients that we actively care manage and work with within those 4 counties. And so we're already in that space. Many of the tax levies, the majority of the tax levies in the state of Ohio use Area Agency on Aging as their partners in managing this. How we can be a partner in this is, as Becky had said earlier, we do an assessment, we do the care management to make sure that the care that they need is getting delivered. We contract through the Ohio Department of Aging. One of our responsibilities is developing a network of the direct caregivers. And these direct caregivers are local folks. There are some national chains, but they all have local employment. So it's not, if we generate money for a levy and for a tax, it's taking care of our seniors, but it's being paid to those caregivers who are small businesses, the home health aides, the meal companies, the transportation that are all within our communities. So all of that money goes directly back into the community to provide care for those seniors that are identified. So what we wanted to also give is we have a slide that shows the comparison. Because while Portage County doesn't have a levy, 3 of your very close neighbors have senior citizens levies. If you see on the next slide there, Geauga, Mahoney, and Trumbull counties each generate between $2.5 to $4 million to help care for the seniors within their counties through a senior services tax levy. So again, to summarize, like I said, every county in the U.S. is represented by an area agency on age, and Direction Home is your designated area agency on aging. We're a private, not-for-profit. We currently have about 238 employees. Again, state and federal programs include Older Americans Act, Aging Disability Resource Centers, screening and assessment, care management, provider networks, and so forth. And our care coordination program is that individual program that we have developed to try to fill that gap. But we can only do it right now with philanthropic dollars. There's no other tax or support. Some of the service and funding barriers, again, 95% of the individuals, and I shared this with you a little bit earlier, think that Medicare is going to cover this for them, but it doesn't. And as I had said, $195 million a year statewide is generated from those counties that have a senior citizens levy to help support seniors in their community. And 71 of the 88 counties in Ohio is already taking this step to help fund the senior citizens in some of those services. So that's briefly what we wanted to share with you. Certainly open to any questions that you may have.
How is this paid? I mean, you're talking levy. I mean, people vote on it, correct?
People vote on it.
And then how is it paid?
It would be a tax levy. The funds would be there. We would go through again.
It would be a property tax levy?
A property tax levy.
As opposed to an income tax levy?
As opposed to an income tax levy. Again, we would propose that we could help manage that, be fiscal manager for that, with our assessment and our care managers to make sure that the right services for the right people are given and that they're managed appropriately. We could, a few of the counties have set it up in a Passport-like program. The Passport program through the Older Americans Act, again, the money would be allocated We would manage the services and so forth, make sure that the providers would provide the service, and then we would see that they got paid appropriately. And so whether that would be turning in that invoice on a monthly basis to the county to say these are the services that were delivered, and we would then make the payments to the providers, and you would transfer the money through Direction Home to do that. All of those things are variables that we can work through to make it work appropriately. But again, to share with you, we do things through the Medicaid programs, we do things through the Older Americans Act. They're already in place. We don't have to build a big infrastructure and spend a whole lot of extra dollars on the overhead to make this work efficiently.
You know, I understand all that you're saying, and I do know there's a need. You know, we get so many calls on seniors saying, I live on a fixed income. My property taxes cannot be raised. How would you overcome that barrier?
Well, may I? In your packet is a sheet where I checked with the county auditor's office, and the information is there. It's just a single sheet written.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And from your auditor's office, a half mil of levy in Portage County real estate taxes would generate $1,922,000. A 3/4 mil levy would generate $2,880,000. That is on the valuation of a $100,000 home. 1/2 mil would cost the homeowner $17.50 per year, or $1.75 a month. Now, there's your answer to the person who says no new taxes.
But you know, everybody that puts that on the ballot, that this is what they give us, how much, and we still get, you know, 1750 and 1750 and 1750 adds up.
That's right. And that's why I asked for this meeting in January, because I would like to see it go on the November 2020 ballot. We have then the rest of the year to educate the public, to tell them what they get. Where else are they going to get these kind of services for a $17.50 for 1 year, when you don't have any money and you need these services and they would be provided to you? So, you know, we have ways of saying, you know, come on, look at it from the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be stuck with the $3,000? I have a family right now in Trumbull County. He's 52 years old. He does not have Medicare. He is not financially able to afford to buy top of the line health care. He and his wife, in fact, have no health care. And he was just diagnosed with terminal cancer. They say if he receives chemotherapy, he will not be cured of his cancer, but it will ease the pain and help the progression just a little bit, to give him maybe a day or two longer to live. But they said, oh, you have no health care. No, he says, I can't afford it. He said, I don't have health care. They said, well, then you must pay for your chemotherapy up front. And he said, what's that cost? And they said, $4,500.
If he had $4,500, he'd have health care.
He would have bought insurance. He would have bought health care insurance. And he said, I don't have it. Well, they said, we have to have it up front until we can get you a Medicaid, until we can find you a philanthropic agency that would take you, before we can get you some help. But if today the doctor says you need the chemotherapy, you have to pay us. Well, he just looked at them and said, I'm going home. You know, what do they do? So,
I have two questions. One, who currently funds Direction Home services that are provided, even if it's only for 50 or 60 people in 4 counties?
That's philanthropic funding, and quite frankly, a lot of that comes from the employees at Direction Home. 95% of our employees contribute on an annual appeal basis back into our own philanthropic fund to support that. We get outsiders, we do a fundraiser once a year.
So it's all philanthropic, it's all private
The
philanthropy.
care coordination program is.
Okay,
We also have the Medicaid program, which is like Passport. We also have some Older Americans Act
so you only
funding.
put
So,
federal and
yes.
state money.
So there are federal and state money that are certain programs that we do. We have a couple contracts currently with managed care organizations on a care transition program that we generate other funds with that to help us.
And my second question is, Melissa's proposal to put it on the November ballot. Is that something that the commissioners would directly propose and it would go on, or would it be the kind of thing like with the state, you have to get X number of thousand signatures of electors in order to put an issue on the ballot? Or is it just something that would come directly from the commissioners?
It must come from the commissioners because it's a county-only tax levy. And so they have that choice, whether to put it on the ballot or not. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. What percentage of if you have a tax levy, what percentage of that money is overhead and how much goes to the seniors?
Oh,
Currently, we would have to assess through that, but I can tell you, Direction Home itself, only 5% of our total operating expenses are overhead. 95% of what we get in goes out directly towards services towards their seniors.
and may I say, the slide you had that showed Mahoney and Trumbull County. I worked on the levy in Trumbull County. It has just gone to a second 5-year renewal and passed. Trumbull County, that's why we need to meet and talk. Every county does it differently, and you, as the commissioners, have a choice to say how you want to spend your tax monies for senior services and for seniors within your county. In Mahoning County, Direction Home Area Agency on Aging does manage for Mahoning County their senior levy. Trumbull County chose not to go that way. Trumbull County decided that the county commissioners wanted to do that. And how they did it in Trumbull County, and this is every county in the state does it differently. Trumbull County decided to have to hire a person. They decided to set up an assessment type kind of overseeing. They decided that they would, any organization, whether it's home care, whether it's transportation, whether it's within a senior center, if it's a program where it promotes. I know, Sabrina, you've not been well. I'm so wonderfully happy that you're even here.
Thank you.
They decided that they would hire a person, and every organization or service fills out an assessment form, tells how much they spent, how many people they served, and what they would want in the way of reimbursement. They give it to that person the county hires. That person investigates and decides whether it was a good program or not, and puts his or her stamp on it saying that it was payable for reimbursement. Those then go on to the county commissioners, and they then put their stamp on as to whether they want to reimburse it. And that way, the commissioners hold on to the tax dollars for every service that is provided. In Mahoney County, like I say, they turn it over to the Area Agency on Aging and have it, managed on the outside. Then there are counties who say, we want to reserve a portion of that tax money because we want to be able to pay for the actual services that are outside of the scope of healthcare, transportation, that kind of thing. When your senior service organization here in the city of Ravenna, they do a healthcare program, and they assist 55 seniors who come into the local office here in Ravenna. And of those 55 people, maybe they are given a diabetes check or a health care check, a blood sugar test, they're given something local, and that service was provided by the senior center. Then the senior center has a right to say to you, the commissioners, or a person you designate as to take care of and in charge of that, we provided these services. We figured that it cost us an amount of money we would like reimbursed from the senior tax levy. He or she certifies that, gives it on to you, and you decide whether you're going to reimburse or not reimburse that service locally. Or Streetsboro Senior Center decides to do a program, and they then come back and give to the person you've designated what they provided, how much it cost, and they want reimbursement. Those local reimbursements, many counties, when they see the amount of money coming in from the tax levy, reserve a certain portion that you can reimburse local services to. And then the other portion of that you give to a professional agency, such as an area agency on aging, Direction Home, which we are under as Portage County, and that they reserve a certain amount of those tax levies that they are in control of for local services. It can be done many different ways, and you can look at it, and say, this is how we want to do it, because you are the person's putting it on the levy, you're the person's collecting the money. And so this all comes down to the three of you as to how you want to divvy it out. And that's why we're here. We're here because I have worked on senior tax levies in other counties. These are the professionals. They can tell you how it works around the state of Ohio. And this is something we need to get, going on and come to a conclusion as to how we want to do it before we go out and start promoting the levy. Does that answer your question? Who has a question? Oh, I think there are people behind me, I can't see them.
When you're talking about putting a tax on the property owners,
Yes, sir.
if I'm not mistaken, probably the biggest percentage of property owners are already seniors. You're talking about taxing them more now.
Well,
I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's pretty high.
Now that leads to my question about what is the population of Portage County, and what's your approximate percentage of that number of people who you feel need these services? And don't just tell me everybody over the age of 50, because not everybody over the age of 50 needs these kinds of services. And not even everybody over the age of 80 needs these kinds of services.
do you feel if you needed one of those services that it would probably cost you more than $17 a year?
I'm still saying, what's the number of people that you feel, what's the population percentage of the county, or number-wise, that you feel need these services? Seriously, it's a serious question, not sarcastic.
I would suggest if we start down this, if there's an interest in doing this, that we start down the path. One of the things that we use the Center for Community Solutions out of
Yes.
Cleveland. They're the ones that put together some of the information that we've shared with you here. But what they have done for Akron and Summit County are on a path to be designated as age-friendly communities. It's an AARP program. They started this about a year ago, but what they did was to get a needs assessment.
That's what
So they
I'm
know
asking for.
exactly within Summit County, how many people are in the needs for those
Yeah.
services. And they give you the whole age demographics, the wage, earnings and everything, and give you a pretty detailed report on a needs assessment, if you will, of how many people are in the community who need these kind of services, who fall outside of the scope of funding that's already available through Passport or through Medicaid or so forth.
Portage County.
Yes, right.
You
No,
don't
we
have
don't
it.
have that now.
Thank you.
That would be something that I would
That answers my
propose that
question.
would certainly be in support, would provide a lot of supportive information,
Mhm.
if that's the direction we go.
In your packet, I did include the Center for Community Solutions packet on senior tax levies. It is in your folder.
Commissioners, I apologize. I have another event I need to go to. So do you have any further? This is a very helpful presentation. Now we know what to look over, who to contact
Mhm.
with questions. Appreciate you putting it before us. Do the commissioners have any further questions?
No, but you've given us a lot of information, which I appreciate, Melissa. I mean, you're always good at doing your research and stuff that I would like to have some time to.
Absolutely, that's definitely what.
Before you guys disperse, the numbers that you have there for public health and hospitals there, what does that public health and hospitals mean? Is that we're giving away to that? Because that's over double anybody else, triple or quadruple to others? And so I look at those numbers, and yes, we don't have one, but we are very significantly higher in mental health and public health and hospitals. Where do those numbers come from, and what do they mean?
That's from the Center for Community Solutions.
Yep.
It's identified. I'm
Yeah, I'm just
I'm
curious
not
what
sure
they mean.
that
Yeah.
I could say
Yeah.
what that,
Senior services
portion
will
of the
go
levy
3 million,
goes
2
to,
million, and on the other side, they really don't have the public health or the mental health and recovery. So I would look at that public health as part of that being seniors that
True.
can't afford it,
Yeah.
and mental health and recovery, I would think seniors would
Yeah.
fall in that category.
Overlap of
The-
populations.
I would say though that levy in Portage County does not support the senior citizen
But we
services
do
we talked about
support
today.
seniors in Portage
Seniors, in
County.
some cases,
But we don't have the program as you're speaking, but we
Could be,
do
yes.
support our seniors, and those two numbers dwarf the other numbers.
yes.
And that
I
would be
agree.
my question, when we
I-
start looking at paying more in a tax, what are those, how much of seniors do we support in mental health and recovery and public health and hospitals are part of our seniors programs that we
Yes.
do have?
I'm
within
gonna
our
bring
government?
this back and if you guys could stay, it sounds like members of the public have a few questions.
Yes.
So I'm gonna
Certainly.
move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you again for coming and presenting to us.
And by all means, I know this is like drinking from a fire hose with all this new information.
That's very
to you.
helpful.
When you have an opportunity to look through it, certainly let us know. We'll be glad to come back and have further discussions.
Thank you.
All right, Melissa, we got your information too, so.
Oh, absolutely, that's why we're here.
Yeah, and I appreciate it because I know you do a really good job of
I'll send
giving us information.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. to
All right, you're
present.
welcome.
Thank you all very much.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you happen to know this particular statute that
Kelly, do you
authorizes
have
that
any
kind of
folders
a
in your
tax?
office?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Okay.
The statute that would authorize that kind of a tax?
I wouldn't be familiar with that. That would be through the county commissioners that would generate that.
And I spell your last
And
NEW.
again, I'm not sure, we'd have to look back at what
And
makes up that
Charles?
Yeah.
individual
How does-
spending. Again, because
There might be.
it's not spent in the program that we talked about
Correct,
today.
understood.
But again,
wanna make sure.
I'm sure that there are seniors who are receiving some services.
They're under a
Or
different
there
name.
might be, might be
Just-
some
I'm
horse
just
trading
curious
that
as
to
a
go
Summit
on
County
between
resident,
this.
whether
Could be
there's
as well.
something.
You know,
Well, that's, when I look at
maybe
that,
somebody from the
as soon as you
other-
put it up there, I
Talked
start
about-
looking at the numbers
talk
and just
about
like,
these
there's something
We'd
missing
love to
there.
have it, in all
There,
the
and-
counties
because
that
I
we
do know
cover.
that there are a lot of seniors in Portage County that get a lot of
Yes, we're
help.
like.
Well, sure.
mentioned,
I mean,
you know,
your point's well taken when you look at that
assessment,
final
I
column.
agree,
you know, you're talking from 24 to 33 million.
I always
You know,
appreciate
and
leaving us some information.
where they have a chunk there designated and it's not
And
there,
I'm
it's
glad
being
you
spent
brought
somewhere
it.
else.
Yeah, you take that away,
Liaison
yeah,
for
but
us.
they're pretty close. So
Yeah.
yeah, that, I mean, that's.
Good questions.
Most of our funding is, you know, the Passport Medicaid program,
Senior services
program,
and
other
care
funding
for our
sources, but
seniors.
those are for Medicaid eligible
You
people.
know.
So
Yeah,
what about
and
those
see-
older
Different all
adults
sizes
that aren't
and shapes
Medicaid
and
eligible or
colors
don't
and
want to
needs
spend down to
and
become
orders and
Medicaid
all.
eligible?
My dad
They're all
spent the last
all
year
over
of his
people
life
of the county.
in and out
Uh,
of
And,
nursing
We're
homes
supporting
and
all this
hospitals.
schools
And
and all that stuff.
really, he
Totally
needed
get it.
more care than people get at home. Everyone's concerned because their taxes keep
as
up,
it
they
turned
can't
out,
afford it.
but
At the same point in time.
We just thought it was really unjust that his sister could get an aid
And, you
because
know,
she was
life's
Medicaid eligible, and he couldn't,
because
because he worked hard all his life,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah,
and,
school.
and it's like, you know,
There's the small population that we can cover, the small population that long-term care insurance covers, and then a big population in between.
It's not
Yeah, and
wow,
he didn't
do I
He
support
didn't
it
get to
or not,
long
it's like,
term,
do I support
Yeah.
long-term